Hello and welcome to Long Island Weather Outlook and reports. Definitely an eventful weekend with the wildfires, and the good news on this satellite here, high resolution satellite, not really seeing any smoke on it, no smoke plumes. So we did have a lot of clouds around today, but fortunately, you'll see in the other video, the wildfires are mostly out now. They're just working on a containment line. So obviously, today, still a little bit on the breezy side, and the winds were shifting around a little bit today, too. Here's the satellite loop, and you see some high clouds off to the north, and that's all part of just a little disturbance, I guess. Other than that, not really a whole lot of activity on this satellite. There is a storm in the Gulf here. That's going to wind up staying to the south of us. Looking at the weather map, again, you see that storm in the Gulf. For us, we've got this little backdoor front that's kind of draped over northern New England. That stays to the north. And looking across the country, do have some red flag warnings in effect for the Great Plains, and it looks like some wind advisories and even some high wind warnings in effect for tomorrow, for Monday. So that could be wildfires over there, perhaps breaking out. Let's go and look at our current observations right now across the area, and you'll see temperatures are generally around 40 degrees. West Hampton has dropped down to 29. 28, actually, it's dropped down to 28. And it looks like there was radiational cooling overnight there. 41 degrees at Islip. And the city's still in the low 50s. And it looks like Toms River and the Pine Barrens there, west of Toms River, down to 34 degrees right now. The air is still kind of dry, though. The dew point is 19. Humidity 41%, so this is why we're still going to have to worry about fire risk. That fire danger remains high. Looking at our highs today, mid-50s for a lot of Long Island, 54 at Islip. Out east, a little bit cooler, mid-40s on the east end, where a sea breeze was more prevalent. City got into the mid-50s, and also New Jersey, mid-50s as well, 55 in Toms River. Looking at our lows, this is where we had a little bit of radiational cooling. West Hampton got down to 19, whereas Islip only got down to 27. And in the Pine Barrens, West Toms River, also Miller Air Park at 19 as well. It's funny how Miller Air Park and West Hampton seem to often have matching low temperatures or within a degree of each other, because the environment in both of those places is very, very similar. Let's look at what the day was like in West Hampton first. It looks like they did have a max gust of 32 today, so not as bad as yesterday. But I'll show you the winds here. We had southwesterly winds, and they got kind of gusty for a little bit. So that's why they had to make sure that the fire doesn't spread, because if the wind's shifting around, it could spread. Even though it's out mostly, they still could be embers, and the humidity is still kind of low, as you see here. Only mid-40s out there. But if we further west, where we had the wind shift off to the west, you'll see that the temperatures got up a little higher. So let's see, Islip got up into the mid-40s, and then when the wind shifted to the west, right around in the afternoon, it went from the mid-40s through the upper 40s and into the 50s, because that west wind brought in warmer air, and you can see it also drier air too. The humidity also dropped there as well. So definitely not a good thing for the fires. But luckily, the winds have kind of died down for the most part. And looking at West Hampton again, I already looked at West Hampton. So let's look at the overall pattern as we're heading. Well, before we do that, let's look at our climate report for Islip. Sure, we're above normal. High of 48. Well, actually, this is an old one. Because it doesn't really read the high of that 50s that hit later, because that high of 48 was, they took this at 4 o'clock before so they're saying it's at normal, high of 48, low 27, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be above normal when they have the later one, because it was a late high. But if we look at New York City, where that happened sooner, that shift, 52 and 32, 1 degree above normal. So we're going to be a little bit above normal today because of that. Now that we're done with that, let's go to the map, and we're going to look and see what kind of weather we're going to have for as we head into the middle of March. So we've got a warm week ahead, but then it could cool down again. And the warmth, maybe tempered by a backdoor cold front. So first, let's look at the jet stream pattern, overall jet stream pattern that we have here. And you'll see here kind of a zonal flow, bit of a split flow. That's not really conducive to bringing any cold air in. And then some more ridging in the east as we get toward later in the month. So it generally looks like it's going to kind of be above normal a little bit. You have some shallow troughs, but we really don't get into most of them. So that to me looks like an above normal type of pattern for the most part with the temperature. So let's go to the height, the 600, the 500, sorry, 500 height, and this is today. You can see a little bit of a trough there, but then we have that ridge build. But there's a storm that goes underneath it that's going to stay to the southeast. That's a southern stream short wave over there. We're not going to see any precipitation from that, so it's going to be dry. And then you can see that ridge starting to build toward the weekend again, and a really strong southerly flow that's going to develop out ahead of it. And it could be a strong cold front, perhaps on Sunday. You can see that ridging kind of stays with us, and then it does bring some troughing in a little bit of troughing right around the time that we see astronomical spring arrive. And as you know, we set our clocks ahead last night, so hopefully you're all on daylight savings time now. Let's look at the European. I'll change this to the 12s, the European. So here's the European, similar look. Yeah, pretty much a similar look. Maybe a little sharper with that trough, but then it is a lot deeper with the next trough, though. Again, the European does seem to want to make it colder again as we get toward after the first day of spring, oddly enough, whereas the GFS doesn't seem to want to do that. However, what we can do is we can look at the 12Z run and see if that looks any different. Not really. So the GFS not quite as impressive with the troughiness as the European. So not a surprise there. We'll keep this in the temperature. We'll change this to the temperature. I'll show you the temperature anomaly chart here. And I'll probably pull this in a little bit. Notice how warm Greenland is, by the way. I'll show you this scale first, but just to show you the big ridge that's going to develop again toward this weekend. Huge ridge. And then it does bring some colder air down. This is the 12Z run, all right? Let's look at the European. And 12Z European. So looking at this week here, I've kind of pulled in a little more so you can see what's going on. So, again, well above normal tomorrow, above normal Tuesday. And then we drop back a little bit on Wednesday because there's a backdoor cold front, and you can sort of see it there, kind of keeping the coastal areas cool, but well above normal for much of the country there. And still a lot of above normal. We're going to be a very warm weekend here. This March is a lock for being above normal, I think, to well above normal. I mean, most of the months this winter have been above normal. We only had 1 month that was below normal, so now climatological winter is over anyway. So climatological winter ends March 1st. Astronomical winter ends sometime around the 21st or something. I don't know the exact date, but it's around that time. So anyway, you can see it drops a little bit next week. And then it has a bigger shot of cold air, but it's very transient. Even the European is showing that as a transient shot. So, yeah, any real hopes of returning to real winter weather, I'm sorry, it's kind of over at this point. And the GFS again showing that warmth, which I showed you already. I mean, they pretty much agree on things. I mean, there's not really a whole lot of disagreement. There's some minor subtle differences. I guess maybe when we look at the surface, maybe there'll be some more subtle differences. So let's go ahead and look at the surface next, starting with the European first. So tomorrow, fair weather tomorrow. We have west winds. And then there's that low that kind of stays offshore as we head into Tuesday. But then you see what looks like a backdoor high that builds in on Wednesday. That's going to bring in a little bit of a cool down. So originally looked like we were into the heat this week, but now it brings in a little bit of a cool down. and that backdoor high starts to slowly move away on Thursday, and we might have to deal with a stalled frontal boundary, which may actually bring some crappy, sucky drizzle for Thursday. Originally supposed to be a dry day and warm, maybe with some clouds, but now it may not be that way. And then for Friday, you can see it starts to slowly, the warm front probably starts to slowly push back up again. And then we have this big powerhouse low again, which could create severe weather in the Midwest. This is a Saturday, Friday night, Saturday into Saturday. You see that low goes way up into Canada. And we're in the warm sector of this. And it's going to be a warm, moist flow, it looks like, because it is showing some precipitation and some strong winds. Look at this. So next Sunday, we may have to watch out for a severe weather event in our area. That looks pretty substantial, very strong winds, and that could be a really impressive squall line that moves through again next Sunday. It's a week from now, but that is something you'll have to watch for. And then behind that, colder weather for a little bit. You can see those highs there building down, bringing some colder weather. And then another strong cold front comes through on right around the first day of spring. That looks like that would bring some cold and windy weather as well. Yeah, more wind again. What else is new? The wind has just been an issue this entire winter. It has been windier than it ever should be. But this, again, all part of climate change. We're seeing things that we never saw before. So let's look at the GFS and see how it compares. Pretty similar for this week. There's that low. Again, that low comes pretty powerful offshore there. I wonder if that almost becomes tropical in a way. I don't know. We'll have to see how that becomes. I don't think so, but you can see there's your backdoor high that tempers the heat, and then we get the warmth ahead of it again. And here we go into the weekend, where that storm just kind of just pulls right up into Canada. That is such a really crazy track. It's such a crazy strong ridge that pushes that low way up. You can see the pressure gradient there, winds, and then that sharp cold front would move through, and then behind that, colder air would follow. Nothing terribly cold, but cold air, and then another strong storm there. I mean, it's pretty similar, but it does look like toward the end of the period, at least the GFS is showing that we're going to have a lot of chances for precipitation, so maybe it tends to get a little bit wetter as we get toward the latter part of the month. But this week, we're not really going to see too much rain at all, and that's not good for the wildfire situation. So let's take a close look at our area now and look at the HRRR. 0Z run of the HRRR first, so we'll take a look at that. Obviously, there won't be any precipitation. As you see, there's that storm. It's going by the south. But we'll look at the dew points and wind flow, though. Obviously, we have a light west wind tonight, luckily. Light west winds, and then there'll be west winds tomorrow, too. I don't think it'll be too strong. West winds, and then there will be a sea breeze developing toward the afternoon. That probably increases the moisture a little bit. Tuesday, we'll have a stronger southerly wind. Nothing terribly strong, because it will be tempered by that low off to the south. But you can see the dew points are still fairly low. Let's look at our air temperatures. And tonight, we may get to see some radiational cooling tonight. So below freezing, perhaps, in the Pine Barrens, 30s for most everyone else, except in urbanized areas in my alley. And then tomorrow it's going to warm up. Tomorrow is going to be a very warm day with that westerly flow. I think a lot of us are going to get low 60s, maybe even mid 60s in Jersey. So it's going to be a warm day. Leave the jacket at home. And then for tomorrow night, it does drop into the 40s, maybe again 30s. If the wind's dry, if the the Pine Barrens especially, could drop down to freezing. And then Tuesday will be, if you're inland, it's going to be near 70, 65 to 70. But we're going to have a sea breeze on Long Island, so it's going to keep the temperatures lower for us. We're probably going to have temperatures 55 to 60. So it will tend to be cooler, but still very, very warm weather for those days. Very warm. And if we want to go beyond that, looking at the GFS here, we'll look at the dew points and wind flow as we head into. So here's the GFS. And you'll notice that backdoor front there that tries to sneak in. So here we go. Wednesday, instead of having a very warm day, we're going to have east winds. And that's going to bring in colder air. And then east winds for Thursday. And the problem is you have an east wind right off the ocean and a frontal boundary that might be right over here for Thursday, and we're going to have to watch for cloud cover and possibly sucky drizzle for Thursday. And then we still have the east wind on Friday according to GFS, so wouldn't really see much of an improvement until we get toward the weekend when the winds go south, but that's moist air, and that's going to bring more clouds. And you can see those strong winds on Sunday, perhaps the LLJ that would come through. And then behind that, you could see colder air returning to the picture, but nothing crazy cold. It won't be that. It'll be whatever cold weather we get will be a glancing blow. But the temperatures will be interesting. So here's that backdoor front on Wednesday. You can see that front, even most of Jersey, except the extreme southwest part, is going to be in that backdoor front. And it's going to push temperatures back into the low 50s. And then even colder on Thursday, not even getting out of the mid-40s and probably not even seeing the sun perhaps. And then it does have the backdoor over us on Friday as well. And then as we get toward the weekend, it's still kind of got the backdoor over us. Over Long Island, Jersey warms up. And then as we get to Sunday, it looks like there's just that southerly flow off the ocean, which tends to keep Long Island cooler, but it will be quite warm inland. And then that front comes through, and then it doesn't really get that much cooler even behind that front. Look at that. Still warm. Still very much above normal. So it looks like we're going to have a lot of fights between backdoor cold fronts. It's kind of you get that in spring when you try to get warm air coming in. That often happens. I just want to compare with the European. So let's compare with the European. So let's see. I mean, they pretty much agree here what we're going to have. So again, as far as precipitation goes, the European for that, again, we're dry, not really seeing much in the way. And Thursday, whatever might be there would be just sucky drizzle. It looks like it's mainly east end and very light. Not enough to really, I mean, it will alleviate the fire risk, but not really solve the we'd have to wait until the weekend, and particularly Sunday, with this really impressive squall line the European is showing, to bring us some rainfall, more substantial rainfall Sunday. And again, those are some pretty strong winds ahead of that. Let's just do this because I have a feeling that's a very strong LLJ. This is a week away, but just be aware that Sunday we may have a pretty strong LLJ. And as far as the amount of rain it would bring, it could bring an inch or maybe more. Last one overperformed, so I'll have to see what happens. But that is really our next chance of rain, of any substantial rain. You can see it does bring a little bit, perhaps on Thursday. And again, there may be sucky drizzle on Thursday now. So originally supposed to be a good day. Now it may not be. That all depends on where that backdoor front sets up. And right now, that's kind of hard to tell. So let's go back to the GFS, and we'll look at the cloud cover. This is a low-resolution cloud model, but you can see tomorrow it looks like maybe some clouds in the morning, then mostly sunny. Tuesday, it looks mostly sunny, but maybe some upper-level jet junk and cirrus in the afternoon. And then Wednesday, you could see more in the way of cloudiness with that backdoor front. And then we're going to be stuck in the clouds after that for a while, I think, unfortunately, for a number of days. Probably not until Monday we get out of it. So we're going to have probably at least 4 days of gloom, maybe 5. So we'll be stuck in that for a little while, and we don't get out of it until Monday. So that's what it looks like on the GFS. Let's look at the RGEM, which is our higher resolution model here for the sky cover. And you see, again, looks like mostly sunny for tomorrow as well. And the RGEM's a little more optimistic with Tuesday also being mostly sunny. Here we go, Wednesday. The clouds we're going to have Wednesday are more of the high variety. But going beyond that, we can't really go beyond that. And we'll have a better picture of how Thursday is going to turn out as we get later on in the forecast. But could have to watch out for that sucky drizzle type of deal. So if we go to windy.com, just to show you what I mean. As far as winds, we'll go ahead and use this to look at the winds as well. I don't think winds are going to be an issue too much tomorrow. It does get maybe a little bit breezy, but it doesn't look too bad. They do tend to get a little stronger on Tuesday, but still nothing terrible. Or it does tend to get stronger toward the afternoon, I guess. But still nothing terrible. I mean, nothing that... but you'll see here, yeah, it does tend to... When they get that east wind, it's going to pick up a little more. You can see gusts. But that's going to be more of a moist wind, so I don't think we'd have to worry too much about wildfires with that. But one thing that I will look at is the visibility. Let me find it here. Visibility, here we go. This is something we may have to worry about. It's showing perhaps some sucky light rain or sucky drizzle that might be over Long Island, that we might have to deal with. So it might be kind of a crappy day. And then for Friday, still kind of has it nearby. So this is what we may be dealing with. We're going to pay for it with the sucky weather, and it's not really going to bring much of any rain. It's just going to make things damp and crappy, because you have that backdoor front around, and that can happen sometimes. The backdoor fronts, you have that east wind. We'll have a better idea as we get closer to it whether this is all going to happen or not. This is a long-range model, and things could change between now and then. Lastly, let's go to the Climate Prediction Center and go ahead and look at our 6 to 10 day outlook to start. And it has temperatures well above normal chances in the east, and also above normal precipitation for a good part, as well as the 6 to 10 days. So that would be good news for the wildfire situation. Obviously, a gloomy pattern could bring more rain. And below normal for the west, 8 to 14 days, still above normal for the east, and above normal precipitation. We'll have to see. Lately, they say above normal precipitation, and it doesn't always. Lately, they'll say it, and then it doesn't really pan out. We'll see if it pans out this time. But right now, this week doesn't look all that wet. It's not until we get toward next week that we'll have more troughs, more rounds for heavier precipitation as far as the amount of rainfall goes. But, this week, the first part's going to be nice. The second part is going to be gloomy, and I hate to use that word, gloomy, but I hate that. I hate that kind of weather. It's the worst. But that is what we may have to deal with. We'll have to see as we get closer what happens. Enjoy the sunshine the next 2 days. And this, again, our satellite image, and there's that storm again in the Gulf. Very unusual-looking satellite image right there. So that's going to wrap up this Long Island weather report and outlook. Have a good night.